Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to another session of your social science children. We have been seeing all about the first cities, the Harappan civilization, right? In that we are seeing about the main features of Harappan civilization. So in that, in our previous session we have been seeing about the town planning, the upper town and the lower town, and then about the drainage system. So we have seen a new term in this upper town called as citadel, which was similar to the feature of a chowltree which we call it today. Then we have seen about the great bath of Mohenjo-daro, yes, and then we have seen about the drainage system, the usage of sumps, then the house drain being connected with a street drain. All these we have seen. So today we are still going to continue with the main features of Harappan civilization. So today we are going to see about society, the food, cloths and ornaments, and then about the economic life, right? Occupation, transport and trade, and then about the seals. So we are going to see about all these now. So first starting with society. So we call society as a group of people, right? So with various evidences, Harappan civilization seems to be largely democratic, which means we are seeing about more excavations, more archaeological sources of Harappan civilization, but there was no evidence of a king or a queen or a ruler, okay? So which means the people were moving along with everyone. So the form of civilization was democratic. And then, so as I told you now, no palaces or royal tombs have been excavated so far, means that monarch-like figures were absent. So monarch is a person who rules the country or a particular state, right? So monarch is a king or a queen, usually we say. So no such palace or a tomb has been found till date. Even till today, we have not found anything of that sort that belonged to this Harappan civilization. So which means a rule of king or queen was absent during this period. Then, so a very efficient administration must have been existed to control this entire region. The city was very big. Okay, the Harappan civilization towns were very big, so a very effective and efficient administration should have been there. And then this can be seen by effective distribution of goods, same pattern of town planning, use of standardized bricks, weights, measures across the entire region. So after all the excavations that had been done throughout the zone of Harappan civilization, right, we come to a conclusion that the effective distribution of goods was there. Right, so we call this to be an efficient administration because the entire Harappan civilization have managed the same pattern of buildings or the same pattern of bricks, weights and measures. Everything they used from one place to other place, everything remains the same in Harappan civilization. So that is why we say that it has a very efficient administration. So here, this is what the citadel which we have been seeing already. You could see all the buildings were built in a similar way, right? So now we are going to see about the food habits of Harappan civilization. So the previous age, that is the evolution of human life, we have seen about the new stone age where people started eating rice, right? So here what happened? Wheat, barley, lentils and other pulses were their main food. So these crops started existing from the new stone age itself. And then millets, wild rice, fruits like dates, walnuts, grapes and figs were their other food. So during this Harappan civilization, new crops came up like millets, wild rice and dates, walnuts. So all the dry fruits also begin to be used at this period. And here the oil was derived from sesame. So sesame is nothing but we call it as yellu. Okay. So, the oil was derived from sesame, and then of course, they were eating meat and fish also. So, all these put together was their food habits, right. So, now we are going to see about cloths and ornaments. So, the cloths were made up of cotton in the New Stone Age itself, and we have also seen that with the flax seeds the cloths were made. So, the same continued here: cotton, flax, linen, silk, wool and leather cloths were also used. So, this was the next level of evolution, right. And the traces of cloth found from the period suggest that people knew how to dye cloth. So, from the traces of the cloth which have been found on all these excavations gives us a new information that people started to add color to a plain cloths, which means the colored cloths were used. Today we buy cloths with different colors. How do we get these colors? Just because of dyeing. Okay, we call it as color dye. With that dye, when a cloth dipped into a particular color, it changes its color. So, that is how this dyeing started in this Harappan civilization itself. See how far the changes had taken place, right. Then, so here you can see from the madder. Madder is like a stick like substance which will give red color when it is being powdered. Okay. So, with that red color was given, and then the indigo, it is a plant, a flower like thing which will give blue colors, and then the turmeric, which we know it will give yellow color. So, this is how they started adding colors to their cloth. So, here you can see madder, here you can see indigo and then turmeric, right. So, all these were added to the cloths to give colors. Then lower part of the body, men draped a cloth resembling modern dhoti with a long cloth flung over one shoulder. So, we call it as dhoti today. Okay. So, in Harappan civilization, men were wearing a cloth on their lower part of the body, and that was just flung over the body, and it was just put on their shoulders, right. So, it was flung on their shoulders. So, this was the pattern of clothing in Harappan civilization, and they also wore turbans on their head. And then women wore knee length skirts, and both men and women possibly wore ornaments which were made up of gold, silver, copper, beads, shells and bones. So, shells and bones were even there, it was used. Now, what happened? New metals have come up. Gold, silver, copper, all these metals have come up, right. So, women's clothing were the knee length skirt. So, men were wearing dhoti like stuff and it was flung over the shoulder. So, this is how the clothing pattern changed. So, here you can see a dhoti like thing which is being flung over on the shoulder. So, from this statue we can clearly understand that the cloths were designed, right, and it was flung on this way. So, here another picture you can see, yes. So, the men wearing a dhoti like thing, right, and then women wearing skirt. So, this is how the clothing pattern was there, and then here you can see the jewelries used in Indus Valley civilization. So, you could see necklace like thing, a bangle like thing which was used by both men and women, right. So, all these were used in Harappan civilization. So, here you can see the bangle which was even, they were wearing the bangles which were made up of clay, right. So, clay bangle that was worn by men and women. So, all these were the ornaments used by them, right. Okay. So, now coming to the economic life. So, when coming to the economic life, we will just see about the occupation of this people. So, these people main occupation was agriculture, of course, right. So, vast stretches of fertile lands were found beyond the boundaries of the town. So, agriculture was the main occupation. So, after that surplus grains were stored in a place where it could be that is apart from the usage whenever the grain is more. Okay. Surplus means in excess. Okay. So, more than requirement. More than requirement, we call it as surplus. Okay. So, the surplus grains were stored in huge granaries. Granary means a place where grains are stored. Right. So, surplus grains were stored, and then the grain fed the people in the cities and also was an important item of trade. So, this grain was sufficient for the people in the civilization, then they were storing these grains also, and of course they started their trade with the help of these grains, which means they started trading with the nearby other civilizations, right. So, like Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization. So, with all these people they had started to trade, right. So, they were also making craft items like weaving, pottery, jewelry making were there, and then artisans made toys, sculptures, bricks, tools and weapons like knives, spears, saws and axes. So, jewelries were made, then the toys, sculptures, potteries, bricks, tools, all were made out of clay as well as terracotta, and then the weapons were made with metals also, right. And then masons laid bricks to build roads, buildings and houses. So, masons were there. So, a new profession started here, people who made bricks, right. So, that became a separate profession. So, like this, various professions or various occupations were there for people. Then here you can see how the trade activities started or how the transport was there, right. So, the transport was by the sea, and then of course within the town or within the city or within the nearby village, it was through the bullock cart. Okay. So, here you can see the example of bullock cart which is being used. This is just a model. Okay. So, bullocks were tied to the cart and then the things were loaded on that cart, and that is how the trade activities happened throughout the civilization. So, here you can see chief mode of transport was bullock carts and boats, which means bullock carts were used for in and out of town, right. In and out of this Harappan towns, the bullock carts were used. And what about the other places? So, to other civilizations, they used boats, right. So, to reach Egypt or Mesopotamia, they used boats, right. Now, roads were laid broad in such a way that it will have enough space for bullock carts. See their planning. They were laying roads broadly because then only a bullock cart can go in that road. If the road is going to be too small, definitely bullock cart cannot go. So, they planned in such a way that the road will be broader. And then transport was very much important. Even today, transport is important for business, right? For any trade activity, transport is important, and trade in turn was the most important economic activity of the people of Indus Valley civilization. So, trade was again a very important activity that gave income, that became a part of economic activity of this Indus Valley civilization. So, here you can see this is where the Indus Valley civilization was located, and from here people started their trade activities with Mesopotamian civilization, and also here is there the Egyptian civilization. So, they had trade contacts with Mesopotamian civilization as well as the Egyptian civilization. So, now about transport and trade we will continue. So, trade was carried out within the villages and cities. So, inside the civilization itself, trade activities were there, and also with other civilization of that era. So, they also had trade with the civilizations that belong to the same period. Okay, so that is what the Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilizations are. Then the main items of trade. So what are all the items they used to trade? They were trading food items, building materials, precious stones and colored gems. So precious stones were also becoming a part of a business, right? Then now we will see about the seals used by them, right? So a very important seal used by them was the seal of Pashupati. Okay, so this is a very significant seal of this Harappan civilization which had been found from Mohenjo-daro, right? So there was another seal which resembles a unicorn, then a seal which had bullock, okay, bull. Fine, so we will just see about the seals. So numerous seals were made up of soapstones, terracotta and copper, right. So all these were used for making seals and it has been found from these Harappan sites. And then most probably it would have been used by the traders to stamp their goods. So here you can see the stamping process started here, which means a good sent by me, I will have my own stamp, I will have my own seal. So I will stamp it on my good and then I will send it. Okay, so this was the practice then. Then it was also used as a unit of exchange, and then the seals carried figures with animals as inscriptions. So the figures which were seen on these seals were inscripted with the animals. Usually the animals were used, so for which we are seeing the examples of the Pashupati seal, the unicorn seal and the bull seal. With this, we are ending up this session. See you soon in the next session with more main features of this Harappan civilization. Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.